okay, so now my consulting fee is not cheap or free, but it's not overly expensive. I think at that time, I think maybe he paid $700, $800 for an hour or something like that. And I said, okay, so here's what I wish I could do for you. I wish I could build a time machine so that we could go back in time and you could have paid this $800
Yeah.
consulting session that would have saved you $750,000 because he was stuck. He signed all the contracts. Basically he got played. A lot of people get played when they go into real estate for the first time. They make these $100,000, $1 million errors because they just don't know what's going on. And I don't know if you followed. Have you followed? You're familiar with the entertainment space. You followed what happened with DJ Envy and Caesar Pena and all that, right?
I'm Boyce. The entertainment industry is what allowed me the freedom to actually get back into real estate. So yes, and saying that, I would rather manage assets than manage humans. So
Mm, mm,
or manage expectations, because
okay.
that's what Caesar was. He was selling expectations, right?
Mm,
So
okay.
he was selling expectations and did not know how to properly manage expectations. On top of that, flipping properties and those kind of returns that he was promising. I don't have an opinion, and I don't want to. I don't. Whatever he was doing in the Jersey market, hey, I don't know that market, and I will tell anybody that's listening to this right here. Each market is different. What happens in Indianapolis is not like being in Chicago. What happens in Chicago is not like being in Atlanta. What's going on in Atlanta is not like it's not like Miami. So every place is definitely different, but managing expectations and your partnerships, um, you know,
Mm-hmm.
with Envy and Caesar, I wish him luck.
Yeah, me too, me too. And there's no ill will. I'm not at all.
No, no, no.
Yeah, I would never seek to gossip or speculate because I don't know. I wasn't involved. But
Exactly.
one thing that you have seen in this happen in our community is, it was exciting to me, but it also concerned me. I feel like I've had a front row seat to a massive transformation in the last 15 years of the perception of wealth building and generational wealth in the Black community. Back in '06, '07, that was when I first met Charlemagne the God, and I was on on with him with the Wendy Show, talking about these issues. And at that time, it was corny. Wasn't nobody really talking about it like that. And Charlemagne was one of the first people I met in the hip hop space that really understood it and really got it. And so later on, when he was on the Breakfast Club, I went on the Breakfast Club and I was talking about the Black wealth thing and why wealth building is so important. I've been a finance teacher for a long time, so that was just natural for me. But so on one hand, it was good in the sense that there's these sort of pivotal moments, like when Jay-Z. Anybody remember when Jay-Z made 444? And he put that song out, and that was all about wealth building, everything. Everybody got excited about that. So you sort of saw this transition where suddenly there was a big discussion, of wealth happening, on every platform. Then the Earn Your Leisure guys came along, et cetera, and they're doing their thing. And everyone was excited about it. But one of the things that concerned me is that you and I both know hip hop culture, and we know that there's some strands of hip hop culture, not all of it, but some strands of it that, in my view, are inconsistent with the temperament required to be a good investor,
Oh
right?
man.
A good investor is not
Wow.
into instant gratification. They tend to be into delayed gratification.
Mhm.
Good investors, the big wealth builders, the Warren Buffett types, Charlie Mungers, etc., they're not into being big and flashy. But the rappers, they like to flash, they like to shine. And I felt like when I saw so many guys going on the hip hop shows saying, yeah, we got everybody invested, generational wealth, da da da. And there's a guy with a big gold chain, and he's saying, yeah, I'm doing it for the hood, and people are writing $50,000, $100,000 checks to the real estate guy, trying to get involved in these deals. I got a little nervous because I did not know if those people, because people spoke to me years ago. They were like, you should start a fund and you should do this and that. I said, no, I'm not, because I don't think that people are really ready for what it really takes to be an investor. I think that people will get very shaky if something goes wrong. It's like, oh, suddenly you're a criminal, you stole my money. It's like, well, we invested it just didn't work out. But some people don't get that. And I saw, so to me, the Caesar Pena situation, which was in real estate, which is your territory, that to me was almost like a culmination of just a clash in cultures, where I really think that there has to be conversations about what it really looks like when you have to be a steward of someone else's money. Because if there's a guy, I'll share this and then I'm gonna stop talking because I want you to chime in on this. I don't know if anybody remembers a brother named Ephraim Taylor. Ephraim Taylor was known as a young genius around 08, 09. He was on national TV shows. He was going around to all the churches, particularly Bishop Eddie Long's church, and he was doing prosperity gospel. And he was getting all these black folks excited about investing. They were all giving him his money. And unfortunately, Ephraim, I believe, was he wasn't mature enough to understand the weight of the responsibility of managing other people's money. Because you and I both know the SEC does not play. You know, the federal laws when it comes to managing people's investments, they're very strict and very serious about that. So Ephraim Taylor, he gets all this money, right? Millions of dollars, right? He's a young guy, 25, 26 years old, I think, millions of dollars. Well, you know, if when you have millions of dollars, and you're young, it's like, okay, what's a couple thousand here, a couple thousand there? So he's not necessarily, at least according to the indictment, which got him 19 years in prison, he wasn't keeping up with all of that. And his wife, in the middle of all this, his wife makes like a hip hop music video where she's like wearing furs and diamonds, doing the rapper stuff, right? And not all rappers, but you know what I'm talking about. And lo and behold, he ends up being the subject of an episode of American Greed. And one of the things that I would definitely say is that I see that cultural clash in the sense that it seems to me that when you're trying to build up these multi-million-dollar fortunes and make these massive business deals, there's a culture of conservatism that kind of has to come into play where you're kind of sort of preparing yourself for all the things that can go wrong and not putting yourself in these vulnerable positions. That's my thought. What do you think?
What my thoughts is this. My years in the entertainment industry, I was in intellectual property, song publishing. I managed songwriters and producers. So with music publishing, it's the record industry is the glamour, it's the lights, the camera, the action, it's all the fame. That's where your stars are. But it's the publishing companies that own the content that make that these people perform, that make them stars that you like every day. One of the biggest problems in our community is that entertainment has made us believe that these people are billionaires, and you know, this guy got 6 cars and he has these mansions and all this stuff. It is so fictitious because at the end of the day, I know what the numbers look like in the music business. And then when you have these guys go through different downfalls, and then you hear them talking when they're on their downfall, you hear them say, well, he needed cash, I couldn't give it to him. But you just said you was worth $100 million. So none of it adds up. That translates into a business like real estate, to where the average person from our community that, let's just say they were investors, and it could have been investors in, you know, illicit activities or whatever. But you have guys that come into the business that were used to making 100% to 50% returns. And the entire time that we've been on this conversation, we're talking about anywhere from a 7.5 to maybe a 14% return.
Okay.
That in itself is where the gap in culture is. So when I see these guys doing the prosperity preaching, and they're making it look so illustrious, that's the problem. It's just that, you know, we tend to market the grand of everything. And the real reality of it is I 1000% agree with you, Boyce, that a lot of people, not all, a lot of people don't have the temperament to be an effective investor. Me personally, I would say if I was using $250,000 or $750,000 amount of my money, I would use proven routes to invest it. Even if it was a bad investment, I would have done something institutional. And then, you know, maybe he didn't have the time, maybe he didn't have the time for real estate, and he wanted to let somebody else do it. I just feel like before I get involved in any business, I'm going to lose my time, or I'm going to lose a little bit of money, and like my time is worth more than money. So I'm only going to deal with businesses that I actually know. And in correlating the entertainment to real estate, is that regardless of what you do in entertainment, you don't, in other words, you can own your content, but you still have someone else that's accounting for it. So you can go get a forensic accountant, but what's the odds on you really knowing what you've actually done in any entertainment industry? You'll never know how many ticket sales were at the theater. You'll never know how many times your song was streamed, because at the end of the day, you have someone else accounting, telling you what it did. You have no actual way of really understanding the complex accounting measures that different companies go through to tell you, okay, well, yeah, you sold 1 million records and you may have sold 4 million. You don't know. So the one thing about real estate is that you can, if it's your first property, man, go lose your money in a real property. I'm not saying it's just, listen to what I'm saying. You're better off trying your own property first, then going and investing in a REIT or going investing in real estate. Because at that point, what Boyce is saying is that by you having some kind of knowledge of the industry, you're going to know how to manage your expectations.
That's funny you say that. That makes me think about too. Where did that term flipping come from? Like, when we talk about flipping,
the streets.
Okay, yeah. So that term, when people talk about flipping real estate, it almost sounds like the old school drug dealer.
Yeah,
like, I'm gonna go flip my money. Is that
so? Yeah. So what happens is, let's look at the word bling. You have a lot of urban words now that have made the actual Webster dictionary. Flipping is one of them. But at the end of the day, these are terms that came out of our communities that just became popular. That now when you can go on A&E, you can turn the TV on a Sunday morning, Saturday morning, and it's a Caucasian show, but it's flipping houses or pimp my ride. So this terminology has made it from our communities and underprivileged communities to now they're mainstream words. But at the end of the day, it's still marketed to you like you're really gonna buy a house, you're really gonna fix it up, and you're really gonna sell this house and you're gonna flip it, when you almost have to give a kidney to get a mortgage now. So ultimately I'm more experienced than some people, but I don't know everything, but I do have enough common sense to know that.
Okay. Well, the reason I asked that is because I just think about, I know at least two guys who literally taught real estate to brothers on the street and taught it by comparing real estate to dope dealing. But as you mentioned, those are two different industries in the sense that with real estate, you're talking about these 10, 12% cap rates. In dope dealing, you're literally talking about taking 2,000 and flipping it into 5,000 or whatever, right?
It doesn't make sense. And you know what? And not to go, but Rashad asked a good question. Why does on my mind? Rashad, when I'm saying buy your own house, I mean your own investment property. And yeah,
explain that difference. Just so, I know you and I know the difference, but just to make sure everybody gets that.
Yeah. So Rashad, if you live in an apartment right now and you went to a bank and you wanted to buy a property to make money, they're more apt to loan you money to make money than they would for you to leave out of an apartment and try to go buy the same house to live in. So when you say, wouldn't that mess up your debt to income ratio? You wouldn't look at what I was referring to was a business deal, not something that went on your personal credit.
Okay, got it. Okay, so that's and I think that's an important distinction in terms of viewing real estate as something that, or at least categorizing income generating property versus something that just
you live in,
right? Or even when you talk about the debt to income ratio, what is your income? I hope everybody in here at least understands that at some point you hope to get to a point where your income isn't just what is on that W-2, what you're getting from that job. You want to think of income as income outside of that job, but then even potential income. Like if I can somehow find a way to acquire that property that I know can generate, 20,000 a month, 100,000 a month, then that's what I see as my potential income that could be using all these ratios, right? And I think that's a certain way of thinking that investors have. Investors tend to have the ability to not just see what is, they see what is possible.
Possible.
Yeah, right. Is that would that be accurate? Okay. So I want to say thank you, Cedric. I hope everybody will take a moment and thank Cedric Finley for joining us today. He did this as a favor to me, and I owe him. We barter, brother. I owe you, man. Whatever I can do to return the favor, I will. He is the vice president of Arnold Meyer Commercial Real Estate. The website is arnoldmeyer.com. Also, you guys have joined us for a session of Dr. Boyce Real Estate. If you'd like to see not just the recording of this session, but all the other sessions we've done, plus all the training, we've had experts in wholesaling come through. We've got all that inside drboycerealestate.com. We've had experts in hotel acquisition. We did a whole conference on how to acquire hotels. That is invaluable. Also, if you're a beginner in real estate, we've got all that stuff in there. And I created this program because I wanted to learn more about real estate myself. So I said, okay, let me just bring you guys along, and I'll bring in all my friends, and we'll learn it together. I know I've learned a lot today. And again, thank you so much, Cedric, man. It means the world to me that you did this, brother. Thank you. All right.
Man, you're welcome.
All right.
Have a
100%.
good evening.
All right. Y'all have a good night.